A jury in Florida has agreed to award the family of a man who was shot and killed by cops a grand total of $4. But the judge later lowered that number to $0. I'm not kidding. Now, let me give you the background to the story, and then I will explain how this jury decision came about. It has. Yes.
Can I just say, Anna? Sure. Look, there's two parts of this story that has me totally enraged, and more than enraged, actually, just really, really disappointed. And I think I underestimated the racism in this country. As much as we have covered it, and I've seen a billion cases of it, I didn't know it was this bad. And so I want you to guys, as Anna's telling you this story, focus on two different things. One is, how do they value the life and the family of the guy? And then secondarily, who was at fault, the cop or the person who got shot? Which is already a funny question, but yeah. So now take a look at that.
Okay. So this story has to do with a man by the name of Gregory Vaughn Hill Jr. He was a man in Florida who happened to be in his own garage playing music. Now, Hill, a 30-year-old African-American, was fatally shot by a white sheriff's deputy who had responded to a noise complaint about the music that he had been playing in his garage. Hill had been shot 3 times by one of the deputies, and that deputy's name is Christopher Newman. Now, how did this story even come about? How did it develop into this tragedy? Well, it all started when a mother picking up children from an elementary school heard the loud music coming from the garage of a nearby home. She called in a noise complaint.
Wow, I didn't know it was that serious.
And 2 St. Lucie County Sheriff's deputies, Deputy Newman and Edward Lopez, responded. Okay, so let's stop there for a second. Just a quick commentary about the mother. You're gonna go pick up kids from a school and leave. How about, like, don't meddle in other people's lives? You don't like the noise, then leave, okay? If a neighbor called a noise complaint, that may be one thing, but you're going to pick up your kids and you're gonna complain about loud music? You have nothing better to do? All right.
Okay, look, I get that. Cops, you're responding to a noise complaint, okay? And the guy is in his own garage. And so, but you're gonna escalate. So you're gonna see how bad the escalation is. Obviously, he was, he was killed. But just think about that context. They didn't get called in on a robbery or attempted murder or a rape or domestic violence. They got called in on a noise complaint. And imagine if the guy was white for a second, okay? And let's do the rest of the story.
So the cops show up. The garage door is closed, so they start banging on the garage door. At first, there's no response. They keep banging on it, and finally, Hill opens the garage door, okay? Now, at that point, apparently, there are only 3 witnesses there, the 2 cops and the person who was shot and killed. But everything happened within 2 minutes, and that's according to the reporting from the New York Times. So some exchange happens, and then the garage door was eventually closed. And Deputy Newman fired 4 times through it, striking Hill once in the head and twice in the abdomen. The entire episode took less than 2 minutes. So how would you know that the garage door was closed? Because there are bullet shots through the garage door. Now, let me ask you something. If an individual poses an imminent threat, would they pose a threat with a door closed? I mean, the guy obviously wanted the cops to go away. He closes the garage door. They decide, or one of the cops decides, I'm going to open fire. He shoots, and this man gets shot 3 times. Now, the cops had alleged that he did pose a threat because he was holding a gun. Okay. The only gun recovered was found in Mr. Hill's back pocket and was not loaded. Lawyers have argued about whether it was possible for Hill to have moved the gun to his pocket after the garage door closed.
Okay, so get a load of this load of crap. And then we're gonna talk about what the jury decided. They said, and remember, the guy shot 3 times, including in the head. After he shot in the head, he took the gun that wasn't, if it wasn't loaded, okay, you could say, hey, the cops don't know it's not loaded. Okay, I hear you on that. But why would he point it if he knows it's not loaded? But he somehow decided that he was going to point a loaded gun through the garage door the cops couldn't see. And after he got shot in the head, he's like, wait, I'm about to die, but let me make sure that I cover my tracks in the 1 second of life I have left and put it back in my back pocket. Who could be monstrously stupid enough to believe that?
Who, like, oh, well, the cops, they're gods. Black guy in his own garage. His music was a little too loud and you executed him. Bravo, cops. Bravo. That's what the jury decided. And so, yeah, no, I think that as he got shot in the head, he put the gun back into his back pocket. Now, why don't you just say, I hate black people. I think their life is worthless. And I'm glad the cop executed him for playing his music too loud. Why don't you just say it? Just own up to it. That's not one person. That was a whole jury. A whole jury of people who don't value black people's lives at all. I'm sorry. As much as we have covered it, I had no idea how racist this country is. That a whole jury can get together. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to insult to injury yet.
Yeah, the worst part of the story. I mean, the worst part is loss of life, obviously. But the way that the jury responded and reacted to this. So first, a grand jury decided that they would not criminally charge the cops for the death of this man. So the family wanted to file a wrongful death suit. And then you have a jury involved in that case, right? Now let me give you the details of what happened with that jury decision. Let's go to graphic 47. The jury found that Mr. Hill was responsible for 99% of the negligence in the case.
Well, did he play loud music in his own home or did he not? I mean, he had it coming. Look, I know what white people think of black people. You must obey us. And if you don't bow your head as soon as a cop shows up, we are allowed to execute you. So it's 99% your fault for getting executed. Okay, now, I asked you to imagine that a person was white. Like in the old days when I saw things like that, I'm like, why? What difference would it make? Because I just didn't understand how much people care about race, right? But now switch it, and if a white right-winger was doing something in his own home, and the cops didn't ask if he had a license, and he was a proud Second Amendment believing gun owner, and the cops said, oh, you got a gun in your house, I'm not gonna ask if you have a license or not, I'm gonna shoot you in the head, right? And what do you think what they would do? Imagine if they shot one of the Bundy guys in the head when he was. Oh
my God! I mean,
are you kidding me?
They threatened the cops with violence.
The Bundy guys, those ranchers, et cetera, the ones that took over Oregon, et cetera, they pointed guns at cops and said they would murder them on tape, right? And then the right wing lost it when they were arrested after 30 days of leaving them alone. But when a black guy gets shot in his own house, they're like, yeah, whatever, who cares? He's 99% at fault. No, I'm white. I have a right to own guns and point it at cops. What do you mean? I have Second Amendment rights. Black people don't have Second Amendment rights. Black people have a right to get executed for playing music in their own home.
By the way, also keep in mind, so he had time to close the garage door and then hide his gun like simultaneously, which by the way, the sheriff made that argument. Right, and so he had time to close the garage door and hide his gun simultaneously and also pose an imminent threat to you or to your cops, which is why they had to open fire and murder him.
Who would be so stupid to believe that?
This jury. So let me give you more information.
But they're not stupid, they're racist. They don't care about black people. That's why the slogan is Black Lives Matter, because juries come in and go, your life doesn't matter to me. Okay, let's get to the jury verdict on the amount.
So the jury found him to be 99% responsible for this, right? The jury awarded $4 in damages, $1 for funeral expenses, and $1 for each one of his children.
He has 3 kids, and they asked the jury for the emotional trauma of not having a father anymore who was wrongfully killed. Can you give the kids that money? And they said, yeah, here's what your dad's life is worth. It's worth $1. You're black, you're not worth anything. It's worth $1. That's what your life is worth.
So let me,
because if they said, hey, no, you know what, it's 100% his fault, and we're not giving him anything, I mean, it's terrible for the kids and his life, and we value that, but we just happen to think that it was his fault. I would disagree, and I'd be mad about it. That's one thing. It's another thing to rub it in their face and go, your kids, it's worth $1. That's what we think of black people. It's worth $1.
So just when you think it couldn't get worse, it does get worse. Because jurors found that the sheriff's office was only 1% at fault in the death, that award was reduced to 4 cents. Furthermore, because jurors found that Mr. Hill was intoxicated, by the way, he's intoxicated in his own home. I don't care if he's intoxicated.
They said he was so intoxicated he couldn't drive. Well, hey, mission accomplished. He wasn't driving.
He was in his own garage listening to music. Because jurors found that Mr. Hill was intoxicated and mostly to blame for the shooting, a lawyer for his family said Tuesday that a judge would reduce the 4-cent award to nothing.
Okay, so just we're clear, okay? So right wing, whoever else agrees with this, if you are not racist and this is not based on race, okay, let's accept that for a second, only for a second because it's not true. Well, you just set a precedent that cops can come in to anybody's house, including a gun owner, any gun owner, and say, your music's a little too loud and you're drinking inside your own home. I get to shoot you in the head. And your life's worth a penny. You think they would have awarded $1 or a penny if it was a white guy who was a proud gun owner, Second Amendment, all that stuff, just drinking some beers in his own garage and listening to music? No, they would have been outraged, outraged. Jackbooted thugs of big government. I can't believe intruding on our American rights. But it's a black guy. That $1 award, that jury it's the most disgusting jury decision I have ever seen in my life.